Huh. That's weird. Why has it suddenly got a few more views? Yeah, I'm sure it's... What the hell was that? Oh no. So I recently started my foray into the world of Gunpla with what I thought was a very cool looking model, the Master Grade Deathscythe Hell model. This has made many people very angry and has been widely regarded as a bad move. And so this video I will repent for my sins, responding to the main comments I received and correcting the many mistakes that people pointed out in the previous video. Hopefully therefore this video will serve as a better, more informed dive into the world of Gunpla from a beginner's perspective. But before we start, I do want to make a couple of things clear. Firstly, whilst I am portraying the Gunpla community as bloodthirsty psychopaths out for my head, 90% of the comments I got from the Gunpla community were extremely helpful, well thought out, and positive. The community is clearly very passionate, and I can see from the comments that they have a lot of good knowledge information to share, which I highly appreciate and probably should have sought out before doing that first video. Secondly, I think there was some concern about me not enjoying Gunpla based on this experience, or basing all of my thoughts about what Gunpla is based on this one model. What I really want to emphasize here is that I really enjoyed my first Gundam. Despite the issues I brought up in that first video, Deathscythe Hell was a delight to assemble. The problems I had weren't really blockers. I was probably going to pick up another Gundam anyway. Now that I know these modern Gunplas basically fix every problem I had, I'm all in on this hobby. And you don't have to paint them, which is another great advantage. You get to do a fun, interesting build, look at all the cool mechanics, and you have a finished product at the end of it that you can display on your shelf. I love Deathscythe Hell, and I love the way it looks on the shelf as long as I don't move it. Or touch it. Or make any sudden movements or sounds with the firearm. But in any case, in order to take a deeper dive and actually more explore the world of Gunpla, I did buy myself another model, this Witch from Mercury high-grade Schwartzette Gundam. This model is much newer, so hopefully I'll get a better understanding of what a more modern Gunpla can do and what it's kind of made of. So whilst I do that, let's talk about some of the other mistakes I made in that video. Gundam is pronounced Gundam, not Gundam. It didn't really sound right when I recorded it, but I didn't know any better, and I just kind of went with it once I started saying Gundam. Look, I can barely speak real words. I'm not that smart. I could have looked it up, but I just couldn't be bothered. Speaking of looking things up, doing any sort of research. A lot of people mentioned not doing any research before buying Deathscythe Hell, and I could have looked at reviews or videos or other online information to determine if that model was right for me. But also, Deathscythe Hell has a really cool scythe. I could have spent all that time doing that research, or I could have built Deathscythe Hell, and now I have a really cool robot with a scythe, so who's really winning? Deathscythe Hell is an older model, I believe it's from 2011, and the Gunpla community called these kind of models hand grenades. These are models that are prone to fall apart, especially ones with a lot of moving parts and a lot of different mechanisms, especially in these older models. A few people pointed out that you can tell an older model from a newer model by looking at the box. The newer models have the blue Bandai logo, whilst older ones have a red one. And that's really useful to know. So I remember that for the... You lying motherfucker. Some of the complaints I had are fixed in more newer models that only really come up in these older models. Stuff like the instructions only being Japanese, and also these flexible polycap pieces. Apparently these flexible pieces aren't really used anymore. They degrade over time and so aren't really part of any new models, but I still think they're cool because they do this. Yes, the instructions in more recent boxes like this Schwartzette are translated, which is really nice. Some people pointed out that they never really had to read the Japanese before because the pictures are detailed enough. And that is true. I did find after a while that the information in the instructions in Japanese was obvious and I didn't really need to translate it. But I wouldn't have known that without first finishing it. I would have had to make sure that I wasn't missing anything, so I felt it was better to be careful, especially when I have the tools at hand for some instant translation. Another major bit of incorrect information was about the grading system and how I described that the Master Grade was the second highest level behind Perfect Grade. This isn't necessarily true. It's mostly that the Master Grades are the scale of 1 to 100 rather than 1 to 144. Realistically, it seems like Real Grade would be the hardest one because of the comments I've read. It seems like it's the same kind of mechanism as you get in the Master Grade, but on the high grade scale. And one final thing that came up, which I didn't mention at all really in the previous video, was pricing. In the previous video, I basically concluded that Games Workshop and Bandai products aren't really worth comparing. Obviously, there are things that Games Workshop can learn from Bandai, like the instruction quality, the better sprue layout, and some of the push-fit techniques for larger models, but they're such different models for different markets, that comparing them, as I was trying to do, wasn't really worth it. But I think it is interesting to look at the supposed value you get for your money between these two companies. So for example, this new Gundam that I got, excluding shipping, was £25, which for Games Workshop, £25 gets you this. This excludes shipping or third-party discounts you can get from third-party vendors, but the difference in cost is quite considerable. Now, as you probably could guess, me being bad at many things includes economics and business, supply chain, and all that kind of stuff. So there's probably reasons that these two models are the same price. With 25 quid though, the Gunpla model really is a steal. It seems like it's very cheap for how much fun and how much you get out of it, and the actual product at the end is amazing. Yes, while you can look at the dramatic difference in price, you do have to consider that they are still different markets. You had 25 quid and you had a 40k tournament coming up. You couldn't exactly proxy in the Gundam Schwartzette for your jump pack captain, so you will still have to go and spend that 25 quid on the jump pack captain. And to be fair, it is still a cool model. I'm not a huge fan of the pose, but the actual details in there are still very, very good compared to something like a Gunpla. But if you are someone like me who is interested in getting into Gundam and you would play Warhammer, it really isn't that much of an investment. And if you're already used to paying Games Workshop prices, then this really isn't that much of a bank burster for you. There were probably a bunch of other smaller mistakes I made, like the inability for me to identify foreign numbers, but hopefully now I've corrected the main mistakes that I've made, and we can move on to what I think of this newer model. This high-grade model was a lot nicer than the mass-grade model. This is definitely something I should have started out with, and as a beginner, I recommend you start out with something like this. There's still plenty of moving parts and really fun mechanisms in here. They're just not as complicated or as massive as the ones that I got in the Master Grade model. But there's still a lot of cool customization here, and it was way easier to put together. All the instructions are in English, but you don't really need them because the pictures are so good, but it also means it translates the lore, which I didn't read because it's way less fun than actually trying to Google Translate it. There are also no transfers anymore. It looks like everything is stickers. I don't know if that's a high-grade thing or a modern thing, but the stickers were a lot nicer to use. Even though this is a smaller model, I actually found the stickers a lot nicer, and there's actually customization options in these stickers. I love the mechanics of the sword. There's so many different options you can have with it. I've gone with the asymmetric option because I just love asymmetry. But these pieces that can make up the wing can be in various different configurations, or they can surround the sword like this huge buster sword. It looks amazing. It's a very stable model, doesn't fall over, doesn't really fall apart. The hands fall off maybe once or twice, but apart from that, it seems very sturdy. The one thing I do need to get is I need to get the display base for this. Some people didn't mention the display base for Deathscythe Hell, and it might be necessary to get one for that, but the display base for this model is really cool because you can have all the parts of the sword floating around, which is a really nice look. I don't think it changed my opinion on the comparison between Games Workshop and Gunpla. I still don't think they're really comparable. As someone coming from Warhammer to the Gundam universe, it's basically just a new hobby. There's no replacement here. They're both plastic models that come on sprues that you have to assemble yourself, but that's really as far as the similarities go. I still like Warhammer. I really enjoy all the models. I love the painting, I love the game. And now I really enjoy Gundam and Gunpla, so I've got an extra hobby which I can spend my money on. That's cash in the trash. And speaking of spending my money, I've already got another Gunpla to make. People said this one was quite infamous, so I thought I'd give this one a go. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about Gunpla, Warhammer, any of that kind of stuff. Have I corrected all the mistakes? Am I still mistaken on some stuff? Let me know in the comments. I love reading all those, and thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff, and I'll see you next time. Thank you very much for watching.